So yesterday I went on X and I was met with this news right over here that Michael Saylor sold about 32 Bitcoin. And the reaction from Twitter, it wasn't really that good.
Michael Saylor sold 32 Bitcoin this morning? Bitcoin's down to $71,000?
Yeah, to say that people are angry is an absolute understatement. And if we go to some of the tweets that he has said in the past, this completely contradicts to what he has been saying here for the last couple of years. And guys, welcome back here to the Daily Coin. My name is Thomas. I've been making Bitcoin videos for about 6 years on Team Underground. This is my new channel. If you are new, let's get us here to 1,000 subscribers. That would be really glad. But in this video, we're going to be talking about something absolutely crazy, what the risk of this is for Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is crashing and why this may cause Bitcoin to go much lower. You're going to watch this video until the end if you are a Bitcoin holder. Let's dive you straight into the video. As we see right over here, last year Michael Saylor said to never sell your Bitcoin, and he even said a couple weeks later that you should sell your kidney before you should sell your Bitcoin. I mean, this doesn't really make sense. The person that has been talking about keeping Bitcoin and buying more Bitcoin is now actively selling Bitcoin. Now, credit is what credit is due. Michael Saylor is a businessman, and I respect him as a businessman. And I believe that if I was in his position, I might have very well done the same thing. I can understand his business idea and where he's coming from. But at this point in time, can we kind of say that him buying Bitcoin is closer to an addiction because it is going absolutely nuts? And has he just simply gone so far that he now has to sell some of his Bitcoin to pay some of the debt that he's been acquiring over the last couple of years and months to buy more of those Bitcoin? Well, he has come out and he has stated in this podcast right over here why he would actually sell his Bitcoin. But the real answer, in my opinion, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Let's have a quick reaction to it.
Net seller of Bitcoin. It just wouldn't have been so viral or so catchy to say never be a net seller of Bitcoin. I think that in these periods, even if we were to sell 1 Bitcoin, we'd be buying 10 to 20 more Bitcoin. So you're really talking about a situation where we buy 10 Bitcoin, sell 1 Bitcoin, buy 9 net Bitcoin and continue to accrete Bitcoin.
Now, what I can kind of make up from this is that he is going to temporarily sell some Bitcoin to be able to fund, for example, the interest rates that he currently has on some of the bonds that he has given out to buy more Bitcoin. And that this is only going to be a temporary sale, but when Bitcoin moves back further to the upside, if he can keep this alive, he can buy and acquire way more Bitcoin into the future. Now, I can kind of understand where he is coming from. And again, he is a businessman. But what I really want to know is, why does Michael Saylor actually buy Bitcoin? Why does he buy so much Bitcoin? Does he hate fiat, or does he want to accumulate more fiat, or is he this strong Bitcoin maximalist? Because some of the things don't really line up. And what actually is MicroStrategy, and what actually was his role in the dot-com bubble? Because when that burst, MicroStrategy played a major role in that happening. Now, if I actually go to Michael Saylor Twitter and I actually want to find out what actually is his idea, what are his opinions, is there anything really interesting going on? Well, all I can see is that it is either some AI stuff like, for example, this vitamin B. It's about buying more Bitcoin, and it is about dividends, and then there's more AI stuff. But what I'm really interested in why does he really believe so much in Bitcoin? Does he not believe in the fiat world? Or does he just really wants to grow his business? Is he just jumping on the hype, or does he have a serious addiction to Bitcoin? These are real questions that I want to see answered. But all I can really see is that he's buying more Bitcoin and AI stuff. And I personally have been following him for a very long time, but I don't really know what he actually is. Because if you are a Bitcoin maximalist, for example, you would self-custody your own Bitcoin. And if you cannot actually self-custody your own Bitcoin, it is technically not your coins. Now, Michael Saylor has talked many times about hodling, how you should hold Bitcoin and how you should buy more. But who actually holds his Bitcoin? Well, if you look it up, it's not Michael Saylor himself or MicroStrategy, it is actually custodials. Now that means that the government at any point in time, if they wanted to, they could seize these Bitcoin. They have done it in the past. About 100 years ago, when the dollar became backed by gold, the United States governments took away everyone's gold and used that to back the US dollar. So the whole idea that the government will never take this Bitcoin is, in my opinion, a very unrealistic opinion. Now, if we also go back, currently he holds about 850,000 Bitcoin. Again, these coins are not self-custodies. What if these custodies get hacked? He has a bunch of debt and people are not buying Bitcoins and holding them self-custody is what you would expect a Bitcoin maximalist to say, but what he instead is doing, and he's promoting his own business. He's actively promoting people to not self-custody his own coins, but to buy MicroStrategy so he can accumulate more Bitcoin. And again, he is a businessman, and I understand that. And maybe I myself will buy MicroStrategy stock, and I would love to meet Michael Saylor and talk with him about this. So this is nothing personal, but what I'm really seeing right now is I'm not really clearly seeing if this person is a Bitcoin maximalist. And what we are currently saying is that his whole Bitcoin ethos, his whole stock is all based on his idea that he will never sell Bitcoin. But what happens if Bitcoin goes through a long period of sideways action? That is very realistic. What if Bitcoin has a major crash? Again, he has stated multiple times he's never going to sell his Bitcoin. But here you go, he is selling his Bitcoin. If there's any problem with MicroStrategy or Michael Saylor or anything general like that, it is probably going to cause the Bitcoin price to plummet. And a lot of this is also taking attention away, real attention that while we should educate people about self-holding and the reason why Bitcoin exists, we are drawing away attention to speculation and gains. And it's all about how can we make more money? How can we buy more Bitcoin? But we don't really realize what are we actually building and what is Bitcoin. So he has sold Bitcoin in the past, and when he did sell some Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price did recover back to the upside. But you can see that the fact that he is holding so much Bitcoin, people are slowly starting to realize the effect that he can have on the price. If, for example, Michael Saylor gets a disease, he gets cancer and he dies, who takes it over? Does someone take it over that also really believes in Bitcoin? What happens if he cannot pay back the yields that he has actually said that he would pay out? What would happen if Michael Saylor goes bankrupt or MicroStrategy goes bankrupt? What if the Bitcoin price goes sideways for a very long time? The Federal Reserve has been increasing interest rates, and so far it doesn't seem anything has been broken yet. What if that just magically continues? There's really not a plan B than just buy Bitcoin and hold and hope that it goes to the upside. And if it goes to the upside, buy more. But there's not really a limit on when he is going to say, okay, I have enough Bitcoin right now. And what we also should tie into is that MicroStrategy was one of the companies that caused the dot-com bubble. Now, I don't know the exact details of this very specifically, but what basically happened is that there was an accounting error, or they were overstating their accounting, and MicroStrategy was one of the first companies that had a major correction to the downside, and after that a lot of companies eventually followed. For example, Microsoft as well collapsed in that dot-com bubble. Now we can very clearly see this on the chart, because if we go to the Michael Saylor strategy chart, you can see that this stock had a major rally during the dot-com bubble, but then after this accounting error had a major correction here back to the downside, and the whole company did nothing until he started to actively buy Bitcoin. Is this why he is buying Bitcoin? Does he really not have any other way to grow the business, and he saw Bitcoin, that once he could buy a little bit of Bitcoin, that he saw his stock recover, he saw back attention flowing to the stock, and he kept accumulating more and more? Is he really a Bitcoin maximalist? Is he really planning to never sell Bitcoin? Well, if he is going to sell some of his Bitcoin, or there's going to be any type of problem with MicroStrategy, it is directly going to impact the Bitcoin price. And we've already seen that now he has sold Bitcoin, there's real panic into the market. And again, I would like to state that I believe that it is a good business decision to buy more Bitcoin, but is he going too far? Has he bought too much Bitcoin? Would it have been better to just accumulate Bitcoin slowly with the existing cash flow that he had and focus on things like self-custody and focus on improving the payment system and improving things that would make Bitcoin actually great? Because when Satoshi came in and created Bitcoin, he didn't create Bitcoin for people to become rich, but he did that to fight against the banks, to fight against the bailouts. But if I go to Michael Saylor, his own Twitter, the only thing I see is just AI things about vitamin B and him buying more Bitcoin and him raising more bonds to buy more Bitcoin. And where does this really end? So if we dive again back here into the chart, we can see this correction to the downside. If Michael Saylor is going to have trouble with this Bitcoin and going to be forced to sell more and more Bitcoin, this is going to heavily make people extremely cautious about Bitcoin. If Michael Saylor, if anything happens with Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, Strategy B, whatever you want to call it, it is directly going to impact the Bitcoin price. And it is now that he has become so dominant on the Bitcoin price, and I don't like that. I would have way more liked it if other people accumulate Bitcoin and self-custody that Bitcoin, and we just stop this whole type of speculation. And I don't really believe that he is like a god or anything, or a Bitcoin god or anything like that. I just think he's a businessman. I'm thinking that he wants to make more money, but personally, for this asset, for the asset that I love, Bitcoin, for what I believe it represents, I have doubt that this is really a positive movement that is going on. So that is my own opinion about Michael Saylor. Is he going to abandon Bitcoin? I don't necessarily believe so, but he is becoming too big, and this is going to be a risk for Bitcoin. How is this going to end up in the future? We're going to have to wait it out, but it is something to keep in mind. With that, I want to end this video again. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hope to see you guys here in my next video. Bye bye.